G'day guys, welcome back to the Rugby League Guru podcast. Apologies for my voice. We are in absolute all sorts this week, doing our very best. Kat, I'm one of those guys that plays hurt. If you're in a trench, you want me in it with you.
Are you allowed to make that call?
If I'm not, I am. So tough shit. I'm very proud of myself this week.
Definitely want you in the trenches. I think you're very committed. You have shown up. Yesterday, you were more unwell than you are today, and you showed up. You did what you needed to do. You got the content out, and if people didn't realise just how hard you work, that should be the sign that they needed.
That's why we've got you here, Kat. You just paid for yourself. We love to see it. All right, we've got our preview for week 2 of the Pacific Championships brought to you by Neds. You can follow along with all my bets this weekend on my Neds profile on the Neds app. Go and check it out there. Let's get stuck into the games this weekend, Kathmandu. Where are we kicking off? Who's playing? What's doing? Talk to me.
Let's kick off with the first game of the weekend, which is at 7:10 p.m. on Saturday, the 26th of October. We have Fiji Bati taking on the Cook Islands.
Yeah, first time we get to see the Cook Islands in the Pacific Bowl here. Obviously, Fiji, a pretty disappointing loss last week, to be completely honest with you. And for me, I mean, I don't want to be harsh, but I think this is absolute must-win for Fiji. When you have a look at the squad they've got, the amount of first-grade talent they've got, and just how disappointing they were last week. If they lose to the Cook Islands, with all due respect, I've got serious fucking concerns about Fiji. This is a serious row. When you have a look through this site, you know, Taruva at full, like the back line. Taruva, Sivo, Jennings, Wonga Blake, Semi Valame, Kevin Aguama, and Kurt Donoghue. Like, there's just so many quality players in that side. They should not be losing this game of football. You then get into the forward pack. You know, Tui Kamikamitha, Viliama Kikau, Tane Milne, all established first graders in there. And a couple of young guys on the bench that I really like as well. There is just no excuse here for Fiji. They have to win this game of football. They are the favourites coming to this one, about $1.20 favourites as they should be. They were the favourites last week. A lot of people that have followed these international games over the last few years were pretty confident PNG get the job done. They're at about $2.30. I was one of them. Fiji, they're just very underwhelming consistently, and they just shouldn't be. And I do get concerned sometimes, Kat, when I look at where Fiji are at and I look at where the other countries are, like your Tonga and Samoa and whatnot, and I do get concerns about Fiji. I get Buller, Appy, they're missing a couple of key guys, 100%. I get that. But they're still playing well below where they should be for me. And maybe my expectations are too high, but yeah, if they lose this game, I'm seriously concerned about Fiji.
Yeah, I tipped them last week. I expected them to beat PNG. Obviously, PNG put on a good show as well, but it is a surprise when you look at this lineup and how many of the players that you've got here that have very reputable performances in the NRL on a regular basis. You'd expect nothing less for Fiji. I think that they will put on a much better performance against Cook Islands. I think everything's in their favour to do so. They're also playing at home. We always know that helps too. But I think this Cook Islands side there's a lot of development that needs to happen there too. And I think we'll probably see that this weekend. Yeah,
for sure. And I mean, the reality is too, like, they need to win this by a decent score to make sure they get through to that next stage. I don't think the Cook Islands can win this game, if I'm being completely honest. I don't think they can beat PNG either. I just think the Cook Islands, and you know what, I can accept the Cook Islands being a little bit off the mark because reality is they just don't have the players. Like, I have a look through this side. Like, you've obviously got the two Masters boys. You know, Isan's obviously playing halfback. He's blatantly not a halfback. Brad Takarangi, they've had to bring him out of retirement to come and play 5'8". The forward pack, there's a couple of good guys in there, like Davey Moali, Tepai Moroa, very, very solid front row forwards. But I mean, in reality, neither of them are starting front row forwards in their team. They're just handy players to have. Zane Tadavano, who couldn't get into the Canterbury forward pack this year, he's in the back row. Ruben Porter, who was in and out of the West Tigers side this year. Patterson Rabadi, he's in jersey 13 for the Cook Islands. One I've always really liked. I think he's very talented, but once again, not a consistent first grader. The only name that's familiar with first grade on the bench is Mason Teague, who once again couldn't get into first grade this year as well. So I'm more than happy just to accept the Cook Islands. They actually don't have the players on paper to be able to beat these top sides. If they do, it is just all guts and ticker here, which I respect the hell out of. But Fiji, I mean, if they show the same guts and ticker that PNG did last week, they should win this game in an absolute cricket score. And personally, that's my expectation. They should be winning this game and winning well. $1.22 Fiji are at Ned's. Very, very short for me. I think they will put on a bit of a score here, and I think there's a bit of value in a couple of try scorers in this game. You've obviously got Taruva at $1.92 playing fullback. I love that. My value play, though, is Tane Milne, $3.35. I think he had like 20 runs of the football last week. He's a high-volume sort of guy. I learnt this week on Instagram, you guys aren't a biggest fan as Tane as I am. Got absolutely pulverised on that post. I stand by every single word of it. I think he's a talented guy who, with a good coach who can control him and use him properly, there is one hell of a footballer there. I think he has a big game for Fiji. He's at $3.35 to cross here, part of my multi for this weekend. Give me Fiji. Kat, Fiji?
Yeah, have to go Fiji for this one.
I'm going to back him in to win this one by about sort of 26 to 30 around that mark. I think they put on a bit of a score. They then have next week off, and then they'll be ready for the final against PNG, which will be a really good matchup. I'm looking forward to that one. But I hope the Cook Islands spoil the party completely. That'd be unreal to see.
It would be.
What's our next game? What do we got?
Then we have the Kiwis taking on the Kangaroos. This is one I am personally very excited for. It's quite the lineup we have. This one is Sunday at 4:05 p.m.
Now, obviously, this is the first game between these two sides since the 30-0 drumming last year. Dare I say, and I know like Australia lost to Tonga a couple of years ago and whatnot, I think 30-0, I think it was probably the most embarrassing moment for the Kangaroos ever. It was fucking disgraceful. And that's not to say Kiwis aren't a good side. They're a very good football side, but for the Kangaroos to be losing 30-0 in any game of rugby league, that is just outrageous. I think it's the darkest day in Kangaroos history, personally, without diving into it all. I can't imagine. I think it's the worst scoreline we've ever had. We've had probably bigger upsets, but it was just embarrassing that day. We didn't fire a shot. We didn't look like competing. At the end of the day, the Kiwis wanted it more. And Mal's obviously gone on a mission to, restore some pride in this jersey and whatnot. Had a few hiccups with Kalen Ponga and whatnot and all that sort of stuff. And other players reportedly for the World Cup going to go elsewhere. But it's got to sort of start here. And look, I think the Kangaroos will win this game. I think in these short form competitions, when you've got so many players that are out with injury and guys being replaced and whatnot, the advantage of just playing the extra week and the advantage of just gelling combinations, I think that's going to be enormous. I look at this Kiwi side, and we went through it the other day, missing a number of very, very good players out of this side. Obviously, Keanu Keeney makes his debut at fullback. They've had to move Charnsingle-Clockstad to 5'8". Sean Johnson, thank God. Obviously, he got the SOS call. He's available. He's come in to play halfback. Jerome Hughes out. It's crazy that you can lose the Dally M medalist of the year, and maybe the storyline gets better. In fact, I'm going to say the storyline 100% gets better.
It did get better.
It's so interesting, isn't it?
Oh, well, I was hoping that we would delve into this a little bit, because I think what SJ has done for the Kiwis and for growing rugby league in New Zealand is tremendous. And it's not to say he's done it himself, but I think SJ definitely represents a lot of the change that we've seen in terms of how the game's received over there and the popularity of the game.
Yep.
And he's just found a way to translate the game to the Kiwi audience in a way that resonates with them. And it's so cool to see him get called up. The content that he did, it was just brilliant. And I, for a split second, forgot that I should be rooting for the Kangaroos.
Yeah, it's a bit like that, isn't it? Like, especially when you look at the way that Sean Johnson finished his NRL career, obviously at Shark Park that night, just incredible. And it was hard, I would imagine, there was 16 other fan bases in the NRL cheering on Sean Johnson that night. And I imagine even a few Sharkies fans would have thoroughly enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
He's just one of those special people in our game. So, yeah, it's super exciting to see him go around. And once again, SJ and Charnsingle-Clockstad, they've played together. Not as a halves pairing, though. Neither of them's ever played with Keanu Keeney. Neither of them's ever played with Phoenix Crossland. So there's a lot to talk about here. And, we said the same thing about the Kangaroos last week. I sort of said, a lot of people are tipping the Kangaroos to absolutely smash Tonga. I don't think they will, because they've got all these new combos to sort out. And, I thought it was pretty evident. Mitch Moses, he wasn't at his best. Tom Dearden had a good game, but as a halves combo, they really weren't fantastic. There's a long way to go with them. That's why I just think in these short form competitions, what you quite often find with the Kiwis is they start slow, they finish strong. I like the way that it's played out for the Kiwis, that they had the bye week one. They're going to get 2 straight games heading into the final. I think that'll really play into their favour. So the result of this game, I'm confident the Kangaroos win. And the result of this game, it isn't really going to sway me too much when it comes to the Kiwis, because I know they'll be better in 3 weeks' time. They've got a lot of guys making their debut. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this one, but it's not going to sway me too much as far as where I sit on this entire competition, because I do genuinely think on their day, I think Tonga can beat the Kangaroos, and I know the Kiwis can beat the Kangaroos as well. So I think the Kangaroos will win this one.
Yep.
But it's just going to be interesting to see how it all ages over the next few weeks. As far as the Kangaroos, no real changes here. We spoke about this the other day. They've gone for essentially the same 1-17. Ben Hunt was the one that maybe I thought would be a sniff to come in. I would have brought him in personally, but he's going to stick with Matty Burton. He came on in the last 10 minutes and played a bit of a lock forward role. I do think this game will be a little bit closer than the Tonga game, even though the Tonga game was very close. Like, Dearden scored late to make it 18-0. I'm keen to see the role that Matt Burton plays when he comes on. If he does just come on in that lock forward role, how that impacts them. Something that we spoke about last week, Kat, in the lead up to it was Isaiah Yeo, he's the captain. And I sort of said, I think because he's the captain, he's been made the lock forward in this side. And I still have my question marks about how it all fits. I would have Cam Murray there personally. I still think that's the better spot to go with. But I think just the optics of him being captain, they just feel like they have to start him, which I get, but I just don't think it's his best. I don't think it's the best role Isaiah Yeo can play in rep football.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Cam Murray is just one of the best locks in the game, if not the best.
Yep.
And it just makes sense to have him there. But I think Isaiah Yeo can play that captaincy role from anywhere. So I think he has that presence regardless, and he'll have that way of dictating the game with the boys. But ultimately, this is where Mal thinks he belongs. So I guess play on.
Speaking of the 13 jersey, I think a guy that will have a huge impact on this game is Joe Tarpanay. Obviously, James Fisher-Harris in the front row is enormous, but Tarpanay is the guy that can really break this game open for New Zealand. I think he'll be on the whiteboard of the Kangaroos all week. For me, I've got the Kangaroos winning this one. They're pretty short favourites on Neds. They're about $1.28, very short, obviously. Try scorers, look, it's probably a little bit boring, but I just go back to the well. If you can ever bet on Hamiso and you're getting $1.80 for him, just take it. He's just too good. He is. And the way that they attack, you saw the amount of ball that the left edge got last week. I'd love to sort of give you guys tips on who's going to play which side, but with Matty Timoko and Peter Hiku, I'm actually not too sure which side those guys are going to play. Obviously, Matty Timoko, he plays a lot of right centre for the Canberra Raiders, so maybe he plays on the right. If so, him marking up against Hamiso, I loved Hamiso's odds there. But even if he's playing against Peter Hiku, who's obviously on the older side of things, I just think Hamiso could be too good for both of them. So him at $1.85, I like that. My value play, though, comes from New Zealand. This kid has just been an absolute pleasure to watch this year, Keano Keeney. I've loved every minute of him. It's crazy when you think back to this time a year ago, Kat, we're going, who's going to be the Titans fullback? AJ Brimson, Jaden Campbell, how do they make it work? Got to the end of the season. And, it wasn't a conversation anymore. It was Keano Keeney. He just had to be there. He's obviously, hyper talented and very good at what he does, but maybe his best asset is that he's just available. He's constantly available. He seems to be very, very durable. I think he's going to be, regardless of what position he's playing at the Titans or what's doing, I think by the end of this series, he'll pretty much have that fullback spot locked down for the Kiwis. I think that a guy like Charms will always be in the side, but I think him at centre or whatever is probably the better option. I love this Keeney. He's at $3.60 to score. I think the value there is unreal. You cut up some content earlier today of him, Kat, and even just me watching it before.
Yeah.
Just the highlights. He's just he's one of those guys. There's probably only a handful of them in this competition that when I know they're on TV, I know I want to be there just in case this guy does something amazing.
Yeah.
He's something special.
He's got ticker. I don't know how small he is, but he obviously looks He's on the smaller side. He's younger, but his speed is brilliant. He's very agile, and I think that's going to take him a long way in that fullback position. But he's clearly got a great brain for the game, and a lot of that at that age, you can't teach. It's instinct, and I think he's a real asset to this Kiwi side for sure.
175 centimetres. He's only 83 kilos. There is just nothing to him. The kid was born in 2004.
Yeah, 2000 and is crazy.
Yeah, 2000 and's insane. Shits me to no end. Incredibly talented, Keanu Keenian. I think he's going to make a big splash on the international stage. I think he's going to be one that he's going to give us headaches as far as the Kangaroos goes. And you know what the other beauty of it is with him is that he's only played 20-odd games. Like, you don't really know what to expect from him. He's hard to prepare for, which I really like in players like that. And I just think a guy like Keanu Keaney, imagine how excited he'd be to have the opportunity to play fullback in Sean Johnson's last.
Oh, my. I know. It's special. It's poetic. It really is. I want to shout out another player that I think has also just stood out this season, and it's Will Warbrick. Yeah. And I also just to also shout out Jerome Hughes and the Dally M Awards and how Will Warbrick got up to do the haka and to acknowledge Hughes in that moment. And he led that, and it looked like he was willing to do that on his own until the other boys joined him. But he's such a talent too, and I think he is also another asset on the wing for this Kiwis side because I think he's got a long way to go in the game.
Yeah, completely agree, and pretty special for him as well. Like, he's already represented New Zealand in Rugby Sevens, now representing New Zealand in league as well. That there aren't too many guys that have done that, so a good knock. I think the grand final was a bit of a mixed bag for him, but I think he'll take a lot from that for a young guy.
Absolutely.
You got to remember, he's only been in league for 2 years.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
He's come out very quickly and he's made a real impact, and he couldn't have a better name.
It's a cracker of a name.
It's a cracker of a name. But I think it's often, in my eyes, a little bit of insight too, who's being heroed in the content. Yeah. And it looks like, the Kiwi content really does hero Will Warbrick a lot, and I think that says a lot about his presence in the team and how I guess how present he is amongst the boys and how much he gets involved, and a lot of that content writes itself in the sense that they pick the guys that are really out there doing things, saying stuff, and so I think he'll have a really great game. And more so to your point, like, I think obviously Will Warbrick, he's a little bit older. He's played international union. He's done, he's been around. He's seen quite a bit. I look at Keeney and I actually think they're trying to protect him a little bit from it. And I like that as well. Yeah. I think he's the right sort of kid just to let him ease his way in. Will Warbrick, he's the most confident fucker of all time. Oh, yeah. He's done it all and everything. Like, the two of them's really exciting. Yeah. The other guy that I'm very keen to see get an opportunity in this game, and like, he's already played for New Zealand, but Griffin Neame, the opportunity for him to start with James Fisher-Harris with Mosley Otter out, enormous. Yeah, absolutely what an opportunity. He's a guy that he is such a good middle forward. He's just always got one or two errors in him every game. I would imagine that there'll be a point in this comp over the next few weeks where he drops a ball, and I reckon he'll get that look from Fisher-Harris. And I would just love to see it be a bit of a turning point for him. If looks could kill, right? If looks could kill. I just think it'll be so good to see him get an opportunity with James Fisher-Harris. Obviously you've got Leota out, you've got Leo Thompson out. They're missing a couple of guns. For him to spend a few weeks with Joe Tarpanay, Fisher-Harris, these sort of guys, and be one of those leaders in the forward pack. If I'm the Cowboys, I'm just sitting there going, thank fucking God. Yeah. I think priceless. It's such a true element of international footy when they play with their national teams. 100%. Not just the scores, not just the games. We're not talking Kiwis v Kangaroos. Is what are these young guys actually learning from spending this much time with players they've probably looked up to for the majority of their careers? What does SJ's presence mean to these young guys, to your Keanu Keeneys and whatnot? But then, what does James Fisher-Harris mean to your Griffin Neame? It's really exciting. And just seeing how other guys in rep camps, how they handle the week, different things they do to prepare, different things in their diet and whatnot. Like I've interviewed a number of players over the years that spoke about like little things they take from camps and whatnot. And, they most of the time they'll room them with someone that they can learn something from. Like, there's just so many positives to take out of it. And there's a lot of guys in this squad that are in
a similar situation, the opportunity. Like I even look on the extended bench, like I'm not even sure if he'll get a game, but Casey McLean.
Oh, took the words from my mouth.
Mate,
Yeah.
I watched Casey at the start of the year play a trial for Jersey Flag. Like to see him within 12 months.
I
I
know.
remember on my draft day, Josh played against him in a Jersey Flag trial. Like that's just insane. And he didn't even end up playing Jersey Flag that year. His first touch in under 19s footy was the Origin.
Wow. So you want to talk about birth years? 2006.
That's insane.
Yeah. Casey McLean's the one that we've spoken about endlessly this season because of his prevalence in the CBA Cup and the could be anything conversations. But I think to your point, this goes back to what's Casey learning by being in camp with all these guys and what's he going to bring back to the Panthers with him?
He's 18 years old. He's already 190 centimetres and he's 95 kilos already.
Youth.
Like, fuck, this kid's going to be an absolute
Yeah,
star
I
over
know.
the next few years.
It's brilliant.
A lot of guys there that can take a lot away from it. As I said, guys, my try scorers in this one that I like, I got Keanu Keeney, $3.60. I like the value there. And Hamiso, probably a little bit of a boring one, but chuck him in your multis. $1.85 you'll get there for Hamiso. Put those guys together. I had it on my profile. You're getting $24.38 for those three. Tane Milne, Hamiso, and Kano Keeney. You can follow along with that on my Ned's profile. Come into battle with us. How good. Kat, what do we got in the women's game?
Well, I have to correct myself. I said at the start that the first game of the weekend was Fiji versus Cook Islands. Men's, it's actually the women playing at 5 p.m. on Saturday.
Yep.
So they will be taking each other on, and then that will be followed by the Kiwi Ferns taking on the Jillaroos at 1:35 p.m. on Sunday, which also, if you've been following along content and whatnot, the Jillaroos have been in camp with the Kangaroos and the Kiwi Ferns have been in camp with the boys as well. And I just think, I love the evolution and the progress that we're seeing in the games and the fact that they are promoting them equally and doing all that. But I think it just makes it all the more exciting.
Yeah, 100%. As far as that first game goes, I'll tell you what, something else a little bit special too. Coming out of retirement is Brad Tagarangi. He's going to be captaining the Cook Islands. His sister is captaining the women's Cook Island side. So
Brilliant.
I believe it's the first time ever that a brother and sister have captained an international side
That's
at the
brilliant.
same time. Yeah, pretty special. So shout out to Brad and Kiana, I believe it is. Pretty special stuff there. I honestly don't really know enough about all the players from Fiji and Cook Islands, if I'm completely honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to lean towards Fiji. But, yeah, I think that game is sort of anyone's there.
Yeah. No, I'd agree with you there. I think they're at a similar level in terms of where they're at the moment. They've got Tale Holmes playing at lock. I know her and she's brilliant. So
She's a good time, mate.
naturally I'm gonna edge towards Fiji for that one. But similar to you, I think there's opportunity there to learn more about these girls with this championships, and that's exactly what I'm going to do.
Yeah, completely agree. As far as the second game, that one's going to be a cracker. I am so excited for that one. That's one I will be 100% tuning into, settling in on Sunday afternoon. I'm going to go the Jillaroos. I'm a little bit biased there, but I give the Ferns every chance in this one. I love their centres, two very, very good footballers. Halves, obviously you've got Tyler King from the Dragons, who I love, who has already represented New Zealand Sevens as well. I know that when she arrived at the Dragons last year, just talking to Sowie, she sort of went, he just sort of said she might be the best ball player in the game.
Yeah,
I believe her last name was Wong last year when she arrived back. I think she's got married in the last 12 months and now changed to King, but a very, very talented player there. I'm going to lean towards the Jillaroos. But yeah, I wouldn't say I'm super confident, Kat.
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
Similar, I think it'll be a small margin. I think that the Kiwi Ferns are extremely talented team, but I have to back the Jillaroos here. That's our girls. And, this lineup is just insane. When you look at the biggest names in the NRLW, most of them are on this side.
Yeah.
And, the talent there is second to none. And I think they all represent to like a generation that have come through and they're making a real impact now, and they're kind of setting the bar for expectations for women in Australia and how they perform in the rugby league space. So I'm excited for them, but I think there is a bit of pressure on them to perform as well.
I think there's a heap of pressure on them. Yeah, I think there's a heap of pressure on them in this game. You've obviously, they obviously won last week, 84 points to 0.
Yeah.
Quite the performance.
Yes.
I mean, when you consider it's only a 70-minute game, to score 84 points is crazy. Probably not exactly what we want to see in the game.
Your PPM's pretty high.
The PPM's pretty wild there. And that was also without Ali Brigginshaw. She was a late withdrawal as well. So get her back in. I think the Gillaroos get the job done. They're at about $1.36 on Ned. So pretty short favourites again this week. For me, a try scorer, Tamika Upton. $2, just ridiculous. Very similar to Hamiso if you can get one of the game's biggest superstars at that price. I am happy to take it every day of the week. I'm going to say the Gillaroos card. I'm going to say they win this one by 12 points. What do you got?
I'm going to sound like I'm copying you, but I was going to say 12 points.
Of course you were.
So
of course you were.
I'll go by 10.
Go with 10.
I'll make it different. Gillaroos by 10.
Thank you for joining us once again here on the Rugby League Guru podcast. Make sure you jump onto the Neds app. Follow along with all of my bets this weekend. We've got our multi this week. Tane Milne, Kano, Keeney and Hamiso. 24 great Australian dollars there on the Neds app. Jump on and follow along for the rest of the Pacific Championships.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.